Right, all the complicated stuff done. Now, really simple stuff and really simple techniques for you to take better photographs. Now, I don't mean taking better photographs in space or of solar systems and galaxies and whatever. No, I'm talking about how to compose a photograph using essentially mathematical equations, a bit like what has gone into forming this amazing photograph. This lovely twirl, and like a double twirl which goes into a middle. The nautilus shell, the similar sort of shape from an outside going in. In photography, this translates as the golden ratio. And there it is as a graph, and you can see starting from the outside going right into essentially one corner of the image. The same sort of principle, same corner but twice, and it doesn't matter which way you flip that over. That's two important corners in this one. There's four important corners where the green dots are. Now this is a simplified version of all those slides you've just seen, the golden ratio. It's called the rule of thirds. Most of you will have heard of the rule of thirds, and it's this rule, if you're aware of it, that can instantly make an average photograph look better simply by where you place people, particularly their eye line or horizons in the photograph. And if certain bits of the photograph hit these things, 2/3 up or 2/3 down, and it works as a portrait as well, it improves the look of the photography. And it essentially does this through through how the eye works and how the eye looks at things, and it's kind of all based on I mean, it's natural how we look at photographs and see things, but there is mathematics and science involved in it. It does get complicated, but all you've got to worry about is where you place things in the frame, and if two bits are crossing an object is crossing two of these green bits in a certain way, or in three of them, better photograph. It applies to most photographs. It can't apply to everything, but it's really basic. And the rule of thirds, if you take nothing else away from this lecture, if you employ this rule of thirds in taking photographs, I'll show you the examples now, you will produce better pictures. So here we go. So there's a synopsis. The rule of thirds, the golden ratio, and the golden triangle. You see the golden ratio has got 1 point, but if you flip that, the golden ratio, this diagram on the bottom left, mirror it, turn it upside down, that point is going to be in 4 points of the image, and it doesn't matter where. And those 4 points equal the rule of thirds. The golden triangle just has 2, but again you can flip it and it could be 2 points on the other thing. Key points of a photograph where you want to place people or objects or skylines. For example, so here's a simple one that relating directly to the golden ratio. Your eyes takes in all the picture, goes round, sees the crowd, comes round, total focus on the girl in this bottom right hand corner. Really, really basic photographic technique. Without that girl in the corner in that position, that photograph wouldn't be as good. It just would not work as well. You'd still see a crowd, you'd still see an event going on. This is the border crossing at Wagah in India, in the border between India and Pakistan. But it's that child in that position. It doesn't even matter if she's looking the wrong way. That's what makes that photograph work for your eyes, even though you don't know why. And it's really, really simple. And when you're taking a photograph, if you want something set up like that, and you're not actually setting it up, you just wait and move around and compose it. So there is a child crossing what would be one of the corners with the golden ratio or the rule of thirds in that part of the picture, and it just improves the picture. And all these examples are just showing you the same thing again. So again, this was in India as well. Same principle. your eyes looking at the bottle, see all the sweets of the man in the background, finish focused on this man on the right hand side. In that it's that golden ratio, that rule of thirds, it just makes for a better image, regardless of the fact that he's looking or the man in the background's a bit blurred out. If the man in the background was in focus and this guy wasn't, picture wouldn't work so well, because he's obviously the focal point, and your eyes going around and finishes on him and finishes on his eyes. Same sort of thing again, little bit less, but it's the rule of thirds. So you got the person, the people, where that dot would be in that bottom third, that right hand side. The other person stood up, but it all comes in. So your eye's not going round in a nice golden ratio circle as much, but it is starting on the left, and those lines lead in, and you finish on the people, and it just composes a shot and makes it look better. This is Blackpool. It's meant to show the dirt and the grime of the resort as well as the people, so it's not a postcard shot, it's documentary photography, but it's the basic principle of placing that person in a certain part of the image, and that's where your eye ends up, and that's what makes an image work better. Sometimes we don't know why images work better, but they do, and I'm just trying to explain to you why. Same thing again, a shop. This is in Bethlehem in the West Bank. You see the shop, you see what they're selling, the scarves, and you come back to the two guys placed in the frame deliberately on that right hand side, on that right hand third. Just makes the image better than if they were both stood in the middle, you know, looking at the camera or whatever. It just improves the image straight away. When I look at it again, you can see your eye starting off with the instruments, going around the scarves, finishing on the guy. Same sort of thing again, going the other way. This is Agra, it's the temple. What's the name of the big temple? The Taj Mahal, there you go. Scan round, see the guys in the background, finish on the smiling faces of the people in that bottom left hand third corner. Golden ratio, just going the other way around. That's simple, really simple. Shopping at the Trafford Centre. Again, your eyes starting off, yellow bag, goes around, scans the people, finishes on the guy, sat down looking grumpy, wife's away somewhere. He's having to sit down because it's Christmas and he doesn't want to be there, and shopping is really dull. He's given up. But really simple. I mean, not a great photograph, but just using that same technique time and time again to make it make that photograph have more impact. People are quite looking at it because of that, and they don't know why. And it's because it employs a basic, simple photographic principle, which is going to improve your photography. So this has the same technique, not the golden ratio, but the rule of thirds. And the rule of thirds in this photograph, and as I've said, it works with portrait as well as landscape photography. It doesn't matter which way around it is, it just works. And what it means for portrait photographs is that you put the eye line, particularly the eyes, the head, in that top third of the picture. Now it's not either side, but it's still in that top third. And because the eyes are in that top third, rather than the head and the eyes being right in the middle of the photograph, which is an easy mistake to make when taking pictures, just focus on the face and have it in the middle and have all this waste of space at the top. That makes the image not work so well. If your eye is in that top third, and that could also be a skyline, or a horizon, that makes it better than being in the middle, and it's really, really simple. So this photograph is using less principles of the rule of thirds, just one where the golden ratio is sticking you to one corner and there's an eye running in. But because the eye is in that top third on that line, if you imagine that noughts and crosses grid, and the eye is on that top third line, just improves the photograph straight away, rather than if the head is in the middle and you're getting wasted space and the photograph just does not have so much impact. Similar thing again, rule of thirds, the people on the left and the right are just on that that line coming down. So it just, I mean, there is symmetry in this photograph, which so it is a bit different, but it's just that rule of thirds, and the eye line of the guy you can see is again on that top third, as is the horizon, the top of the hills in the background. So it just improves the photograph straight away. This was where was this? Nablus in the West Bank, Israel. Yeah, students on campus. First picture, terrible. Instantly better, different, same thing. Right, and we'll go back now to what we mentioned right at the start, which is the shocking photographs and what mistakes can be made. And the horns coming out of the head, I said check the sound. Same thing, one post coming out of the head, distracting for the picture. It doesn't matter what the subject's about. You can see promoting something, but massive distraction, and the fact there's a lamppost coming out of this guy's head. Move to the side, either way, problem is eliminated. But really ruins photograph. Easy mistake to make. Always think about what's going on in the background, particularly coming out of anybody's heads. Dead simple one. Getting close. The closer you are, I always think, is better. It's taking photographs. Some people find it quite hard. They do. And it's quite easy to just stand there and be a bit distant and take that photograph of the full body, which I mentioned before, and getting away. You can instantly make a photograph better by just stepping in and getting closer, as close as you can, really close, and fill the frame with that person. So the head's bigger, you can see the eyes, and just make pictures. So this one, you can see, cut the legs off. I mean, I like this picture. I think it works because of the twins, because of the symmetry. But I have stepped in. I've not, I could have shown the symmetry of all the clothes, which is obviously the same trousers and possibly the same shoes. But better impact getting in close, and it's just that getting in close which makes it a better picture, in my opinion. Step in. Yeah, just makes all the difference. My friends from the Westboro Baptist Church. I took this photograph in Kansas State, where I live, Topeka. This is Shirley. I think she's fallen out with the family now. Demonstrating outside of a newspaper. I mean, nothing special about this photograph, but it is the frame is filled with what you need to know, which is Shirley, her t-shirt, and the signs. Don't need her legs in. Irrelevant. Get close. Makes all the difference. Take 2, 3, 4 shots, maybe it's more of the same thing. For several reasons, things can happen and change, but the main reason when you're photographing people, blink. And if you only take one photograph and someone's blinked, which is easily missed when you're taking it, it's kind of unusable, isn't it? The photograph's sort of ruined. Capture someone's blinking, and you don't want that. That picture's not going to get in the newspaper. And if it's the only one you've got, you can't really go back sometimes. So take a few at the same time. You should all have enough memory on your phones or space on your memory cards on the cameras. Take a few, delete them later, but make sure you're eliminating mistakes when you're working, and the mistake can be someone blinking and you not noticing it. Really simple one. It can happen. It happens all the time. Eye level. Eye level equals power in photographs. If you look down on someone, you can make them look weak. If you're looking up through the camera, you can make them look strong. It's really simple. So arm wrestlers, get down low, look up, makes them look strong. Just looking up, really simple technique. And you would only do that if you want them to look strong. If the story is about someone being abused, you don't necessarily want them looking strong in a photograph. You just want it straight on. Maybe it's not even looking down, but more standard. But because this is about strength, you make them look strong. The same rule applies, and it is particularly interesting when it is applied to children. So if you're taking a picture of a child and you just stand and take and look down at it, they can look weak and doesn't look as good. The thing to do is to get down to their eye level, which might mean kneeling down, getting your knees dirty, your jeans dirty, but getting down to their level improves the quality of pictures of children massively. Again, it's got to fit the story, but it's a really, really simple thing to do. Really thing to do. And it works with dogs, with animals as well. If you're down at their level, you get a good picture. If you're just looking down at them, the picture aesthetically is not as pleasing, and it just doesn't do the same thing. Just those little tips like that just make your pictures better. Photographers who are working editorial every day are employing techniques like this all the time. Don't use flash indoors with your mobile phone. Mobile phone cameras are getting better. Flashes are getting better, but they're still not good enough. And I think often when you use flash indoors with camera phones, you're getting the exposure just doesn't come out very well. You might get a person of focus fairly well exposed, but the whole background is often dark, and it doesn't really work in editorial photography. Without the flash, the automatic settings will change, so you'll get exposed for the whole scene. It's worth experimenting with and knowing what your camera can do, what your camera phone can do. If you've got a big camera and you know how to use it, then you can use flash indoors, and it makes the whole scene much better. But it's obviously complicated, and again, that needs practice. And I would say to you, if you don't use a big camera, it would be wrong to then get your hands on one and go and do your first job unless you practice first. You've got to know how to use it first, even in the most simple ways. So back to the Burnley press room, the scene when we saw on the door. So this is a better photograph because he's moved round, but the flash not so good, not really great, not really very well exposed in that picture. Frame things, more on the creative side, which can come into photojournalism rather than editorial photography. But if you frame things in the photograph, better. If the child needs to be anonymous through the playground, Taj Mahal framed by the door, which is a different view. It just adds a bit of impact to images, makes them look different. Goalposts, doorways, can just help an image be better than what it would be otherwise, stand out a little bit. Stay steady, yeah, particularly low lights conditions for camera phone, or under 1/60th of a second on your big camera. Don't press the button really hard and make the camera move or your camera phone move, and because you'll get a bit of blur. Just be delicate with it and be steady as you can, and just consider your movement when you're pressing the button. And if you do it delicately, you won't get that move, and you get sharper images, better images. And you know, a lot of people, you will have all taken images on your camera phone that are blurry, and it's because it's just kind of moved as the exposure is taking place. So stay steady and just hold it just for that second longer than you think it's been taken, just to make sure, and practice being steady, and you'll get better pictures, or you will ruin less photos. Filters, filters in photography. In the old days, it used to be these things: coloured filters, different filters, UV filters, which just screw onto your lenses in different ways. These days, filters are in the apps. Instagram being the most obvious one. Editorial photographs do not use filters. If you're taking a photograph for a story, a photo essay, or a newspaper article, and you submit it, you do not put any kind of filtering on it. You cannot alter photographs like that. It looks bad. It's not a reality of what the situation is. Filters are an absolute no-no in journalism, in photojournalism. Do not use them. It's really that simple. There are, when we go into manipulation a little bit, there are things you can do, but it's kind of just about brightness and contrast, but you don't put those filters in. And God forbid you never hand in a portrait with one of those awful soft filters on, which you know does whatever to that person's skin and makes it a bit, you know, like the lens has been covered in Vaseline. There's not a reputable picture desk editor or newspaper that would publish that photograph unless that's the only photograph they've had, and the subject of the photograph has just murdered someone. You know, you're not using filters at all. No, not at all. For your mobile phones, I would say don't use zoom ever, and that's because they're not proper lenses, and if you're using the zoom settings, you're effectively pixelating the photograph. It's a digital zoom rather than a real zoom. If you've got a big camera, the real zoom is fine. Mobile phones, don't use them. If you need to fill the frame a bit more, step in, move forward, get closer, if possible. I would say never use zoom ever. You're degrading the quality of the image that you're producing, which is not good. Do not use zoom. Blurry things on apps. Yeah, no. That's nice effect for your Instagram and your Facebook. That is not an editorial image. It could be without it if the story's about an art installation on the side of a hill, but that is not to be used. Don't use blurry stuff and anything. No manipulation like that. So there you go. Don't go nuts with filters and say no to fake blur. In the olden days, photojournalism, documentary photography used to be all black and white. And newspapers, all newspaper photographs used to be black and white. These days, it is an art form. Black and white photography is an art form in its own. Editorial photographs, even if they get printed in black and white, I would say you do not submit them as black and white. This is not newspaper. This is not photojournalism. It's a different kind of art form. So, nice documentary shot of an event, but it's black and white. It's done deliberately grainy, but it is not photojournalism. It's not editorial photography. So I would say you do not use it. Beautiful images. Oh, to me, look with the beard. But yeah, not for editorial use at all. And I'm just going to go through a few examples now of editorial images. So the simple rule of thirds, these ones are lit to the side, which makes them look a bit more artistic. But you can see the same principle is applied to both photographs. So they're both in art galleries, they're both portraits. Cut off the legs, eyes in the top third. Dead simple. Standard, but that's kind of what works. An event, you're going to be able to achieve this blurriness in the foreground or background with your proper lens, with your big camera. Maybe not with your camera phone, although I know there are these settings, these portrait settings, which can do it. Maybe experiment with them, but yeah, you can do it, but be careful. Know what you're doing, basically. But it's it's all about composition, and the focus is on the girl on the left. She's in that left-hand third, eyes at the top third. That's the image, and they're all using these images. Are all again, art class, things in the foreground blurred. The artist Catherine at work, looking at the camera. Nice portrait. Rule of thirds. Keep doing it. Keep thinking about where that person is in your image. It works because on the spare side, on the left hand side, you see art equipment. So that's why that one works rather than that boring one with me where there's nothing on the side. But so it's all about how you set up. And this could all have been changed by moving to the right, moving to the left. You've got to think about this and make that image. And it's just enhancing the story. It's just making the story better, isn't it? It's making the image more aesthetically pleasing, so people look at it and has a bigger impact, and that's all it's about. It's storytelling. It's just about impact, and in photography is how do you just increase that impact to make sure that you are doing a better job. Labina, Turner Prize winner, Labina Hamid, doing an art class. Again, same as the last one, just on the other side. You know, shallow depth of field, low aperture f.3 or whatever. So the people in the background are blurred, so the focus is on her. You could argue that she's got post coming out of her head, which maybe ruined that one, but it is a very thick one, and it is very blurry. But probably the only thing that I don't like about that photograph. But like I said, these things happen to us all. Try not to make them happen to you. Oh, there's me pre-beard. Photography exhibition, same principle. I'm on 1/3, eyes on that top third, images on the left hand side. It's obviously not taken by me, but you can see the photographer is using exactly the same technique, and it is a really simple technique, rule of thirds. Another exhibition, same thing, guy's a bit closer there. You see his exhibition, you can make out the words on the other side. Really simple. Coffee shop, same thing, bit different. He's not, usually you'd have the person facing into the camera, and his body's sort of facing away, although his face is flat on. Images tend to work better if you're facing into the frame, if your body is facing in the frame. You can break these rules, you know, but often either square on or just facing in makes for a better picture, and that's how TV news works and documentaries work, where someone will sit and looking across into the frame and the body facing into the frame rather than looking out. Same thing, rule of thirds, bit different. Art, installation, live art, strange man, coconuts. And there he is again, and you can see that's more almost the golden ratio again, although there's not much in the top of the frame, but he's in that bottom right hand corner. When you've done all this and taken all this in the rule of thirds, and you're on a job, you realise that not every photograph is going to be have these principles applicable to them. But you can still make good photographs as long as you know what you're doing. So this one, the child is much more central. It's about street art, so you can see all that in the background. It's taken at a slight angle, which kind of makes it a bit more interesting, and there's lines leading towards the girl from one side, divergent lines. But it's still close enough. Information in there, information in the background, quite dramatic. This one's the same. You can't quite use the rule of thirds, but it's filling the frame. You can see these performers on this thing, see people around them. So it's nice. It's nice to see. So not always using those rule of thirds, but still producing images when you have to. You have to be a little bit flexible. And I would say this one maybe doesn't have as much impact as some of the other ones, but you can certainly see what's going on, and it's close, and there's lots to see. And I mean, the main thing is this piece of art, this performance circle is filling the frame. Quickly, mobile phone apps. There's a lot of them about, some paid for, some free. Snapseed and Visco are really highly rated. Photoshop Express is the one I tend to use on my Google phone. I really think it's good and simple, and the brightness and contrast are really easily done. iPhoto for iPhone and Photo Editor by Aviary. You know, hopefully you're all using editing apps already, so you know which ones are on your phone, which ones and how to use them. If not, try some of these. Photoshop Express is free, certainly on Android. And have a fiddle. Again, you're not using the filters, but it's just that contrast and that white parts of the images, if they're overexposed and a bit whited out, they're easily brought back on these apps, and it you know, just improves images without altering them too much to make them a false representation of what's happening. And a quick project, last few pictures, Coffin Parade around Bamber Bridge in Lancashire, which is done every time a football club, Blackburn or Preston, get relegated or promoted. It's a long running tradition. The local rugby team are carrying it, and it's just documenting what's happening. People get dressed up. You can see it's busy, close, bit of the crowd. And this becomes a photo essay, so it's the wider shots of the crowd, the detailed shots of what's happening, lowering a coffee into a... And there's the guys doing it. And there's the coffin at the bottom. Really simple photo essay of just telling a story through the images. And there's the crowds. Right, I think that's it for now. A long one this week. And that's before we get into the live stuff, so I shall see you then on Wednesday. And what we're doing, yeah, more camera skills stuff, I guess. So we'll take it on. We'll go over some of that in a bit more depth, and hopefully have a bit more interaction. Maybe try and take a couple of photographs as we're doing it, and just really trying to push through those simple points that you won't forget, that will make your images better. Get me if you need to.